sad that man is the highest created ordered thing in the universe, that God has made in his image, and we're the ones who wrestle with purpose. Being chicken never tries to be an eagle. Right? It never tries. It knows it's a chicken. I mean, really. And yet, here we are, created in the image of God, and we're trying to be everything but what we were created to be. This is the teleological argument of God. I'm going to my favorite one. That's the one I'm going to talk about. God must exist. This is the testimony of the human soul. As the highest conception of the understanding of for how indeed could the highest of thoughts be ever known. This is right in here, the ontological argument. O-N-T-O, logical. O-N-T-O, logical, proof of God. You're, the next page. It's this first bullet. This is the ontological proof of God. This is Anselm. This is my favorite. There's a couple more we'll touch on, but I want to spend a moment here. We'll do a little exercise with it. And you say, why is this one good? Anselm was a monk and a teacher who lived in 1036 to 1090 or 1109, something like that. Pretty long life. So 1,000 years ago, he was this monk. And he wrote his long treatise on the proof, the existence of God, and he didn't call it the ontological argument, that's what theologians have called it, sensum. But what is it? In a nutshell, you guys have a mind and you think and believe that there's a God. Right? The fact that you think that there's a God, in Anselm's point of view, proves that there's a God. And here's where we're going to get into this. The fact that you think there's a God proves that there's a God. He had an opponent, and his name was Gandio. He was another monk, and he didn't like the argument, so he had his students do something. Anselm said it was an argument, so he didn't respond back and try to fight the guy. He never wrote back. So it kind of left this question up in the air for 1,000 years for us to answer. But here's where it gets interesting. His opponent said this. Well, I can think of a lot of things that doesn't make a God. Right? Anselm said the fact that God is in your head and that you have, in every race, by the way, has believed there's been a God. Right? There's been here, just write this down. There has been no atheistic society in the history of mankind. None, by the way. That should prove something. The only atheistic society has developed over the last few hundred years of the Enlightenment, mainly from the 1800s. There's been people question, but they never were settled in the answer, right? But men have always believed, and every society has always worshipped a deity or multiple deities. It's ingrained in our DNA. Eternity is stamped on our hearts. So that right there in itself proves that there's a God, even from the anthropomorphic standard, mankind. We know that there is a God because every race has worshipped a God from the beginning of time. And if evolution was true, that's just stupid. But anyhow, back to the point. So Anselm says, the thought of God is there, but the reality of God is bigger than the thought. Okay? Just like love, God is love, love is light. The thought is there, but God is bigger than the thought. But the thought does prove that he exists. I don't want to lose you on this because this can get there. But his opponent said this, and I want you to do this with me. I'm just going to take his advice. And then we'll refute it in a minute. Everyone, close your eyes. Picture an island. Just Picture the most beautiful island you can come up with. Just take a moment and picture it. And now furnish that island the way you would want it furnished with anything. Animals, castles, unicorns, it doesn't matter. Furnish the island in your imagination. Fill it up. Right? Does that island exist? No. And that was his argument to Ansel. Here's my argument. This is what we'll get into. Everything that does islands exist? Yes. Everything you furnish that island with, do those things exist? Yes. Now, however we assemble the parts and pieces, that's irrelevant. Because there's not a thought in your head that has a place that there is no existence. Not a thought. I don't want to lose you. You cannot create anything that does not have an origin. Not one thing. So the argument that, oh, God is the only thought then that we've created, I'll explain a little further. You see what I'm saying? Now, I know you guys are like, no, I can come up with something. There's nothing you can come up with. Well, man invented an airplane. What inspired him to invent an airplane? A bird. The pattern was already set in creation. Right? So we can create demons or monsters in movies and make all kinds of, fantasy spaceships and Star Wars, and and we can build things with our imagination, but all the pieces and parts, no matter how far out or extravagant we get in what we imagine, all have their origin in a reality that is true. A spaceship has an engine, it has lights, it has computers, right? So there's nothing that exists that doesn't have some sort of origin already there. Man is not an originator. God is. Right. Yeah. We're created in His image and we create, but we don't originate. God is the only one who was self-existent, that spoke the worlds into existence, that came to be, that never were before. So He set the pattern for all reality. He set the pattern for all creation, all living things, all life, for every thought, forever and ever. Okay? So we sit here and we think, wow, I have the thought that God is real. It's in me. It's ingrained in me. I can't escape it. Why? Because it is real. And the reality is greater than the thought, to be sure, but the thought is in your mind, and nothing is in your mind that does not have its origin in reality.